Hey guys, it's Sam here, and today we're going to be talking about the 4-point deduction that Nottingham Forest received yesterday, and also talking about what that means for their Premier League, or chances of their Premier League survival. Now, I'm going to start with reading the statements, or at least reading part of the statements anyway, from the Premier League and Forest. So I'm going to start with the Premier League one. An independent commission has applied an immediate 4-point deduction to Nottingham Forest FC for a breach of the Premier League's profitability and sustainability rules (PSRs) for the period ending season 22-23. Nottingham Forest was referred to an independent commission on the 15th of January following an admission by the club that it had breached the relevant PSR threshold of 61 million by 34.5 million. The threshold was lower than the 105 million as the club spent 2 seasons of the assessment period in the EFL Championship. The case was heard in accordance with the new Premier League rules, which provide an expedited timetable for PSR cases to be resolved in the same season the complaint is issued. Now, it goes on, the Commission determined the sanction following a 2-day hearing this month at which the club had the opportunity to detail a range of mitigating factors. The Commission found that the club had demonstrated exceptional cooperation in its dealings with the Premier League throughout the process. So, that is pretty much the gist of the Premier League statement. There are notes. Obviously, all Premier League clubs are assessed for their compliance with the profitability and sustainability rules each year. That's just going on about the PSR rules, basically. But that's it from the Premier League, pretty much. The 4-point deduction, and that's it, basically, from their point. Now, the Nottingham Forest one is very interesting. I've already read it. I read it yesterday when it came out, and so this was issued 20 hours ago. So it's been 20 hours since this statement was released. So, Nottingham Forest is extremely disappointed with the decision of the Commission to impose a sanction on the club of 4 points to be applied with immediate effect. Notwithstanding our disappointment, we thank the Commission for agreeing to deal with this matter on an expedited basis. The club considers it to be essential for the integrity of the league to have charges resolved in the season in which they are issued. So that was going on about the ruling from the Premier League. We are extremely dismayed by the tone and content of the Premier League submissions before the Commission. After months of engagement with the Premier League and exceptional cooperation throughout, this was unexpected and has harmed the trust and confidence we had in the Premier League. That is a big talking point. I'll go into that in a lot more detail, because that's a massive talking point as to how a lot of fans feel about the Premier League. That the Premier League sought a sanction of 8 points as a starting point was utterly disproportionate when compared to the 9 points that their own rules prescribe for insolvency. That's not right, but it's on the Forest Twitter page and probably and I think on their website. You can read it. Insolvency. I don't know. English is shit to me. I can't speak, as you guys already know. We were also surprised that the Premier League gave no consideration at all to the unique circumstances of the club and its mitigation. In circumstances where this approach is followed by future PSR commissions, it would make it extremely difficult, if not impossible, for newly promoted clubs without parachute payments to compete, thus undermining the integrity and competitiveness of the Premier League. Again, a massive point. Whilst the Premier League may have called into question the club's business plan, the club maintains that it responsibly balanced complicit with PSR with important investment into the squad to give us the ability to compete in the league for the first time in over 20 years. Even after the club had missed the PSR reporting deadline, it still took steps to ensure Brennan Johnson was sold before the end of the transfer window. That was a clear demonstration of our respect and support for PSR. The Commission's decision raises issues of concern for all aspirant clubs. The player transfer market is a highly specialised trading environment that cannot be compared to the sale of normal products and services. Another big and valid point that they make in there will be occasions when a player transfer cannot be completed in the first half of a transfer window, can only be completed at the end of that window. This should not be a reason for the condemnation of a club. For this not to be recognised by the Commission or the Premier League should be a matter of extreme concern for all fans of our national game. Of wider concern for all aspirant clubs is the disturbing effect this decision will have on the operation of the player trading model. This is the only model by which clubs outside of the small group at the very top end of the Premier League can realistically advance up the football pyramid. The rationale of the Commission is the clubs should only invest after they have released a profit and the player develop. I'm sorry. This is awful. This is why I am not a reporter. This reasoning destroys mobility in the football pyramid, and the effect of the decision will be to drastically reduce the room for manoeuvre for all such clubs, leading to the stagnation of our national game. We believe that the high levels of cooperation the club has shown during the process, and which are confirmed and recorded in the Commission's decision, were not reciprocated by the Premier League. And that is it. Now, they are very strong words, a strongly worded statement, but also extremely, extremely valid. The points they made are valid, and it's a very interesting word there, because like I said, it's been 20 hours, and as of yet, as I'm recording this, they haven't confirmed if they're going to appeal yet. But with the way that statement is worded and the points they make, it seems very likely that they will. And in the end, what do you have to lose? Everton got their 10-point deduction reduced to 6, so it's very possible that if they believe they have grounds, which to that statement it sounds like they do, they believe they have grounds to get this appeal through and have their sentence reduced. I mean, what do you have to lose? You pay you pay a bit to get a new commission to hear it. The only problem is you can't introduce new evidence, but with the evidence they've already given, it sounds like they have grounds for an appeal, which I expect them to do, really. So, yeah, it's a bit mad. It's very, very mad. Obviously, I want to go through the talking points made in the statement. So, the fact that they're extremely dismayed by the tone and content of the submissions by the Premier League clearly shows that Forest have a very... They're clearly not happy with the way that it went at the beginning. Obviously, the fact that they've said that the Premier League wanted to sanction them 8 points at the start, when their own ruling basically has it at 9 for the word I can't fucking digest, the insolvency word, whatever that is, I don't know. It just showed that, I mean, us as fans already knew that the Premier League have no idea what they're doing, and they make up the rules as they go along. I think this statement just proves it. The Premier League don't even know their own rules. The own rules they've set, they don't even know them. So, it's bizarre. It's very bizarre, but it's stuff we already knew about the Premier League. And then after that, obviously, you know, the fact that it has harmed the trust and confidence they had in the Premier League. I mean, it's not the first time trust has been broken by the Premier League and a club, and sadly it won't be the last time either, because the Premier League have shown no determination to change, to make things better, and instead it's just getting worse. And when you look at the fact that Everton and Forest have had their cases done, both sides have been very disappointed with the way that the Premier League handled it and the outcome of the commission. It doesn't bode well, especially when it's happened in the same season, only a couple of months apart as well. It's very, very concerning for clubs at the lower half of the Premier League table and smaller, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, smaller clubs that don't have the financial capabilities as the top 6 do. They can, I mean, to compete in the Premier League, you have to spend a lot of money, and when you come up from the Championship, obviously, as it mentioned there, you can only lose 61 million in the Championship, whereas in the Premier League you can lose 105 million. So the fact that they were over the 61 million by 34.5, that was in the 22-23 season when they were promoted. Now they were promoted with they were promoted late on because they had to go through the playoffs. They were promoted with a squad that was full of loan players, so they've gone back. Players were out of contract, and they had to spend. They had to spend money anyway to compete in the Premier League, as all clubs have to. But they had to spend 150 million on 22 players because they didn't have a squad. And with the amount of games you have to play in a season, you need a squad. So they had to go out and buy a load of players, and they had to do that by spending a lot of money because the football, the player market, as it mentioned there, it's fucking ridiculous. So, like, players that are bang average, go for 50 to 80 million. Like, it's ridiculous. The market's fucked. The market's been fucked for years. But when you have clubs like Luton, who are not a rich club, that get promoted, you get 100 million for being in the Premier League. That 100 million will go a long way for Luton. They can redevelop the stadium with it. They can invest in their academy so they have a bright future. But most importantly, they can have that money to keep the club afloat for a long time and be a competitive Championship side if need be. If they go down, they can have a competitive Championship side with that money. Then to compete in the Premier League, you have to spend a lot of money, which in the end Luton didn't really do. Maybe they spent a lot of money for Luton, but it was nowhere near other clubs. But obviously they can't, because they don't have the capabilities of doing that, which I don't think the Premier League take into consideration. And it sounds, from the Forest statement, they don't take that into consideration. They didn't take it into consideration, and they just don't care. They say you abide by the rules, whatever happens, happens, but you have to abide by the rules, and they don't even know their own fucking rules. I don't get it. So then, there was another, so, with the circumstances approach, if followed by future PSR commissions, it would make it extremely difficult, if not impossible, for newly promoted clubs without parachute payments to compete. Yeah, and then obviously undermining the integrity and competitiveness of the Premier League. And it's very, very valid, because if the clubs don't have that money, they're not going to be able to compete, because a lot of Championship clubs are not rich. They have, I mean, you look at so many clubs that just don't have the spending capability of the top six. It's very, very rare that you will see a club come up from the Championship and spend what Forest did. And they're very fortunate in that, because they do have, outside of the top six, a very wealthy owner who can afford to spend that money. But then when they have to spend that money to compete, and they know they're over, they admitted they were over, they could have sold Brennan Johnson to Brentford for 35 million. As a financial point, you could say, do it, because that wipes out the 34.5 million you're over, and you're set. But from a business point of view, it doesn't make sense. Brennan Johnson was very, very valuable to Forest. He was a homegrown player. He was one of, if not their best player. And they thought 35 million was well below. They ended up selling him later in the window to Tottenham for 47.5 million. So they get more money. Business point of view, why not? You know, the value he brings to Forest and the value that 47.5 million brings over the 35 million, I mean, they still sold him, which they mentioned there, the fact that they were still determined to sell him, but at their price. I think even they lost a bit, because I think originally they wanted 50 million for him, and they ended up selling it below for 47.5 because they knew time was running out in the window and they had to sell him, otherwise they'd be over the threshold for even longer. They were desperate to get that wiped out, or they were desperate to at least show that they were willing to sell a player that they valued very highly, that was very instrumental to them not only getting promoted but staying up. I mean, that's the problem. And obviously, I'm a Liverpool fan, as you all know, so I'm a fan of a top six club that can have that spending power. Even I know that it's fucking ludicrous that the top six get away with a lot. I'm not a deluded fan that doesn't think we get away with things. The top six are valued very highly by the Premier League because they're the ones that bring in the most money, they're the ones that have the most money, that can bring in the best players to the Premier League. That makes the Premier League even more valuable and watchable as well. If you have the best players in the world in that league, you are definitely more likely to watch the Premier League than any other league. It's as simple as that. And I mean, it's frustrating, even as a top 6 fan, that even I know that the top 6 get away with a lot. So how frustrating must it be for a fan outside that to see, especially if you're a Forest or Everton fan, to see your club get deducted points, your club get charged, your club's basically struggling to compete in this league, whilst you have Manchester City, who were charged, what? I don't even know when they were charged the 115 charges that they have, that still is going nowhere. And people say, oh, it's complex, it's different to these are a lot easier. Come on, you're the fucking Premier League. You've got a shit ton of money. Just invest. You can have a commission and a charge going on and another one in the background as well. Like, you don't look at the police. The police don't just work on one case. They have multiple cases going on, and they have different people assigned to each case. Why don't they do it? You spend your fucking money and put it towards actually working out this City complex situation and fucking get that sorted. Because that's what's annoying Everton and Forest fans the most, that they've been sanctioned, their cases are done, and Cities who were charged 12, 18 months ago, however long it was, still nothing's being done. Chelsea, nothing. £1 billion in 2 years, and they haven't even got close to like recouping that back into player sales. Nothing. Nada. Not even talked about. I mean, they're getting away with it. Like, they're getting away with it because they're a top 6 club. I'm telling you now, if Todd Bowley and his people had taken over West Ham, Wolves, Forest, Everton, and they'd spent £1 billion and not even got close to recuperating it in player sales, bang, sanction, done. But because it's Chelsea, because they're a top 6 club, because they bring so much importance and value to the Premier League just sweep it under the carpet. The same with City, and the same with FIFA and UEFA, with all the big clubs in the world, because City, they were supposed to have a 2-year Champions League ban. They were found guilty in UEFA, and then because City have all the fucking money in the world, they were able to just pay it off. People will say they appealed and it was found that they weren't, that the 2-year ban was too harsh and that a fine was more appropriate. Bollocks. They paid UEFA off. They definitely paid UEFA off, and I wouldn't be surprised if they paid the Premier League off as well. Because that's what you do. You're a big club, you get in trouble, bang, here's some money, forget about it. Guarantee that's what happened. And if it didn't, then I'd be massively surprised. Because there's no way it didn't. Like, it would be stupid for the Premier League to accept money from a club to ignore their financial, or ignore them breaking the rules because they're at the top end. I don't know. I don't know what's going on anymore. And I think that's what happened anyway. But moving on to what it means to their survival, they're in the bottom half now. Let me get the table up. So they're on 21 points, and Luton are now on, well, they were already on 22, but they're now up to 17th. But they've played the same amount of games. Obviously Sheffield United still have a game in hand, but they're on 14 points. I can think it's safe to say they're down. So Burnley, although they won at the weekend, they are on 17 points. I think it's probably safe to say they're both down. So realistically, you're playing for one place, which kind of makes it easier, but also makes it a bit more tense, because there is only that one place to play for, and a point is not much. A point is definitely not much, and with that, then only 4 points behind Everton and 5 points behind Brentford. So it's far from over. It could have been a lot worse. They could have been deducted, 6, 8, could have ended up having, Everton's original 10-point deduction. It would have been a very worse situation. But in the end, the 4-point deduction has only made the deficit of 1 point that they're behind, which is very easy to catch up, because Forest's next 2 games are at home to Palace and Fulham. Now, because they're at home, although Fulham and Palace have been on a pretty good bit of form, especially Palace since Roy Hodgson left, but it's at home, and you'd think they're a very good opportunity when you're at home to play the best you can, to have that fight for staying in the league, because Luton's next 2 games are away to Tottenham and away to Arsenal. You expect Luton to get absolutely nothing out of those 2 games. So this is a massive opportunity for Forest to go and get 2 wins at home against clubs in and around where you are. If it was away, I'd say it'd be a lot harder, but because it's at home, they've got a very good chance. A very good chance. Because you have, obviously at home, you have more of your fans, you can create a better atmosphere, and you can get players up for it more. But now this is all sorted out, okay, although Nuno was saying that they had to try and ignore what was going on off the field and, just focus on playing, you're human, and naturally these things will creep into your mind, and it could explain why they hadn't, they could have explained why Forest haven't been playing particularly well. But now that that's done, you don't have that. It's done, you know the outcome, and you know the deficit you have to get. Those players now have to be willing to fight for everything. And those 2 home games are massive. I'm sure the fans will be as loud as possible, and that has to transfer to the players. They have to be willing to fight. You can't go into these games now with a mindset of, we're low in confidence, these lot are better than us, we're not really going to get anything out of this. You've got to fight. When you're at the bottom, every point matters. And now, till the end of the season, every game will be like a cup final. Because every point matters. Every game matters. And the games they have left, like I said, Forest, Palace at home, Fulham at home, Spurs away, tricky, at home to Wolves, away to Everton, that'll be a massive one, at home to City, tricky, away to Sheffield United, another massive one, home to Chelsea, tricky, away to Burnley, last day of the season. That game, again, could be very massive. There are very winnable games for Forest in this run-in. Luton have, as we said, Tottenham away, Arsenal away, Bournemouth at home, City away, Brentford at home, Wolves away, Everton at home, West Ham away, and last day of the season at home to Fulham. You'd say the run-in for Forest is better. Luton's tricky. Forest's, it's tricky, but with that running, you see more points going to Forest than Luton on paper. That Forest team have to be up for it. And as far as I'm aware, because obviously I'm not a Forest fan, I don't follow a lot of Forest on social media. I've actually not spoken to my dad about this. My dad's a Forest fan. I've mentioned that a few times, but obviously if you're new, or if you're relatively new and you didn't know that, yeah, my dad's a Forest fan, I'm a Liverpool fan. I follow my mum because my mum's a Liverpool fan as well. So yeah, don't know if he's that happy about it, but he cares. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, there's been no indication that they're willing to sack Nuno just yet. They've had one win in 9, which is really piss poor, and they have to do better, and I'm sure the players know that. I'm sure Nuno knows that. But the problem they are having at the minute is they can't keep players fit. A 1 year comes back, plays a couple of games, gets injured again. Chris Wood comes back, plays a couple of games, gets injured again. Origi comes back, plays a couple of games, gets injured again. They keep getting these players injured. They need to get their players back, but they need them to stay fit. That's the biggest issue they're having. They can't keep players fit. And it's a snowball effect when you have that you can't keep players fit. And you have to keep, you feel like everything's against you. We've had it as Liverpool. We had it last season and a couple of seasons ago where we kept getting a load of injuries. We'd finally get a player back, and then we'd get another injury, or that player would get injured again. And it just loses all the rhythm that you can have. This international break is big for them because it can give them time to adapt. Yes, they've got players away on international duty, but the players that are injured, it can give them time to potentially get back. Players that have just had knocks can recover. They don't have games, so they just have a lot of time to recover and be fully fit, ready to go in this run-in. I think there's 9 games left, which means there's a maximum of 27 points to play for. And in that run-in, out of those 27, I would say Forest probably need 10 to 12 points, I would say, to probably be safe. But that again is on paper, because who knows what happens? You know, we've seen it with both sides. Luton managed to draw with us. No one saw that coming. Luton have also had the capabilities of going 3-0 up against Bournemouth and losing 4-3. No one knows what's going to happen. Forest, they beat Newcastle, they've beaten Man United, they beat Chelsea this season. But they have the capabilities of dominating the second half against Luton, being 1-0 up, should have killed the game, and end up drawing. So, it really could go either way. But I would say it's probably about 10 to 12 points they need to stay up. And it's very possible. With the running they have, it's very possible. I mean, they could easily come away from the next 2 games with 6 points. Both at home. It's a good chance for them. And they have to take it, because you don't see Luton getting any points from Tottenham away and Arsenal away. You see them getting smashed, really. Which, again, could work into Forest's favour if it comes down to goal difference, which it very well could, because there's not much in it. There really isn't. Like I said, 1 point, it's nothing. And it very much could come down to goal difference. Forest's already is 2 better than Luton's. So if Luton gets smashed in 2 games, again, that could help. But it's only going to help if Forest capitalise on it and also get points. You'd say Forest need at least a minimum of 4 points out of those next 2 games. Whether it's beating Palace and drawing with Fulham, or drawing with Palace and beating Fulham. You need at least 4. Obviously the dream is 6, but you'd say out of those next 2, they need a minimum of 4 points. If it's less than that, it's definitely not good enough, and it's troubling times if you don't capitalise on that. So, I think that's it. Yeah, the Premier League, obviously, as we've all known for ages now, is shit. Has no they have no idea what they're doing. And yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see if Forest are going to appeal, and if they do, we'll see what comes of that. So, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
I know we grew up a little too fast. I miss the days that we chill and relax. Where did the time go? It all passed. Now I need to go back. I had no worries but always had plans. Only thing I did was pick at the trash. Now it's much harder to laugh, hard to get up and then work on my craft. I need inspiration, don't need no validation. No more medication, should try some meditating. I don't need you to save me, feel like all of you hate me. Everything's been so hard with all the situations lately. I just need to numb the pain for a minute. I just wanna run away on vacation. I don't know what else to say now. I just need to numb the